Hello, good morning, and thank you for joining the SkySwitch University webinar series. This is Jason Jones, the VP of Sales for SkySwitch, and I'd like to welcome everybody into the webinar today. Thank you for taking the time to join us and to learn more about how to make business SMS a part of your UCaaS services. So today's presentation is brought to you by Eric Hernaiz, the president and founder visionary of SkySwitch, and myself will be taking part and delivering this presentation together. We're waiting for a few more people to arrive into the webinar. So we had a very large crowd that registered for the webinar. So we're just going to be probably starting this in just about 30 seconds. So we'll go silent here for about 30 seconds, and then we'll start the webinar up. Thank you for your patience. Okay, again, thank you for joining us today. Jason Jones here, VP of Sales for SkySwitch. We're going to go ahead and get started right now. Again, today's presentation is how to make business SMS a part of your UCaaS. We have a lot of SkySwitch resellers that are on the call today, and then we have some outside personnel and attendees in here with that are probably maybe utilizing another platform too. So we're going to get started here, and this is a webinar for everybody out there. So I want to talk about a little bit about the format of our presentation before we get started too. We tend to go through the entire presentation, and then we'll have a QA session at the end of the webinar. So if you look in your GoToWebinar control panel there, you will see a questions section. As the webinar is moving forward, please type your questions into that section, and then we will address every question in its entirety at the end of the webinar. Okay, so we want to get started today, and just before we get started, I want to just let you know too that the third annual SkySwitch user group conference is going to be held in Nashville, Tennessee, October 7th through the 10th. It's going to be an exciting event for our resellers and for a lot of our vendors. So we look forward to seeing everybody down there in Nashville, Tennessee, October 7th to the 10th. Okay, so let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about SkySwitch. To give you a brief overview, SkySwitch offers an ecosystem that allows white label resellers to sell, manage, and bill for cloud-based communication services, such as hosted PBX, SEP trunking, hosted call center, web and video conferencing. We have a very robust UCaaS, Unified Communications as a Service, feature-rich functionality that's built into the platform. We also have some very exciting mobility apps that are built in there that are exclusive to our reseller channel too. So it allows them to go out there and compete very effectively at a very high level within the market. And we continue to innovate on the platform at a very high level. So all this entire UCaaS infrastructure is managed by the SkySwitch team. So all that operational and business support systems necessary to deliver these business communication solutions with optimal uptime and call quality. So that's what we do here at SkySwitch. We're going to move to the next slide here. And I'm going to turn it over to Eric Hernaiz, the president of SkySwitch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you taking your time out of the day for this webinar. I know it's these things can be time consuming. There's webinars every day, so just wanted to let you know we appreciate your being here. So my objective for this presentation is really just to share my perspective on business SMS and hopefully to get you thinking about the potential for SMS in your UCaaS business. This is a pretty big topic. There's a lot of ground to cover, and really we'll only be able to scratch the surface during the short time we have today. But what I'm hoping is that it will be the start of an ongoing conversation between you and about the ways that we can use SMS to improve the services that we collectively provide. SkySwitch started developing our SMS and messaging infrastructure about a year ago. And at the time, it was something that I was eager to begin and really very excited about because, well, I guess that's just the nerdy kind of guy that I am. But what I found surprising was that when I would talk to resellers about selling SMS, quite a few asked, well, why? Why do we want to sell SMS services, or why would we sell SMS as part of our voice solution? Isn't that something for cell phone providers? And so this first slide, it just sort of sets the stage that I'm going to spend some time talking about why business SMS is something you as a UCaaS provider might want to sell. So as I'm sure you've all heard, the statistic, 7 out of 10 millennials prefer to send a text message rather than make a phone call. It's business SMS or SMS in general is really an effective way of communicating. Now, the issue is that it's mostly been a way of communicating amongst personal communications tool among your friends and family as opposed to a business communication tool. But that's changing. And one of the reasons it's so effective is because it's ubiquitous. Everybody has a cell phone, and every cell phone is capable of sending SMS messages. And unlike voice calls, SMS messages are asynchronous, right? You can get a message. You don't have to reply immediately. You can think about the reply. And really, I prefer, and I think most people prefer sending text messages because it's quick. It's quicker than a phone call, and you can think about your response before you send it. So just a couple statistics. The SMS is the most used application on smartphones, more than any other thing that you can do on your smartphone. 99% of text messages are read, and the average text message is read in 90 seconds. So one of the reasons that's the case is because SMS is personal and it's a trusted form of communication. Because SMS has traditionally been used for personal situations and not for business, it's considered to be something that's of higher urgency, right? We all are looking out for text messages from friends and family. And so now that it's being used in a business context, that same level of engagement is there as well. And part of the reason it's so effective is because unlike other modes of communication, like email, for example, there's really very little spam in SMS. Most SMS messages are very relevant to your life. And unlike email, the wireless ecosystem, all the wireless carriers and the industry organizations are trying very hard to make sure that that spam doesn't get introduced into SMS. So anti-spamming measures are a big part of the wireless carrier's infrastructure. That doesn't mean that spam doesn't get through. Of course, we all get more frequently now than ever bulk email marketing messages that we may not want to see. And just a little bit of trivia: the word for spamming over SMS is called smishing, SMS phishing, I guess, or spamming. Okay, so next is the next point as to why SMS is timing. So, as many of you probably know, it's now possible to port just the SMS part of any phone number, pretty much any phone number in the United States or North America, and treat that SMS message differently from the way voice calls on that same phone number are treated. These are called long codes, and that's a distinction. In the past, there were short codes where you could send an SMS message to a 5 or 6 digit number. And long codes, though, are referring to the 10-digit phone number. And being able to send a text message from an application, they call that A to P, from an application to a 10-digit phone number and back. One of the reasons that SMS messages are gaining popularity in the business context is because they're easier to consume these days. They're easier to buy and to use. And I believe that started about 10 years ago. I don't know if well, I'm sure everyone on this call recalls when Twitter first started. Twitter was a SMS messaging service. It started really before the smartphone era. I think it started in 2006, right before the iPhone was even introduced. And at that time, Twitter was a way of sharing and updating your followers by text messages. Well, to connect the dots a little bit, that the popularity of Twitter and its traction started getting other application developers interested in sending text messages as well. And as the smartphone became more popular, communication service providers like Twilio started making it more easy for other companies to use and leverage text messages. So today we're in a situation where it's really fairly easy to buy and consume long codes or text messages and use them for business context. And you see that every day in terms of businesses that are using it. But maybe one of the most prevalent or easy to see examples of this is from Google and Google AdWords. So when you're on your mobile phone and you search for something on your mobile phone, quite often what you see these days is an icon that says text, and it gives you an opportunity to text a business. Now, this was introduced by Google a little more than a year ago, and what it does is it allows somebody who's searching on a mobile phone. You'll notice there's a call button, and that's been there for a while. So with one press of a button, it will launch the phone and actually call that business. And you, as an advertiser on Google, can control where that call goes. Well, now the same thing works in the SMS context. If you choose text, you're now able to launch the app and start sending a text message. So this is an example of one of our click-to-call ads, and you'll see at the bottom there. This was a screenshot off of my mobile phone. We give users the option to text us using our own texting service. And so if they click that text message, what they get is the native messaging app, whatever is the messaging app on the mobile phone will open, and it will send a text message. And in our case, the text message goes to our sales team, and then the sales team can then interact with that customer through text. So the last point as to why SMS is because it's becoming more prevalent and easy to use, customers are starting to adopt it. And if they're going to adopt it, they're going to buy it from somebody. It should be you. And there's one of the things I'm going to go over in this presentation is to talk about the reasons why UCaaS providers are uniquely situated to provide business SMS services to their customers. So today, though, however, if you Google business SMS, you'll see that there's dozens, if not hundreds, of existing providers out there. Many of these providers have nothing to do with the telephone system. They're just third-party providers who are able to port the SMS portion of a phone number and then reroute that message to an application. A lot of times that application is running on a cell phone, but it could run anywhere, or it could, of course, interact with other programs through APIs. And then, of course, you have the larger UCaaS providers, companies like RingCentral and Vonage, who have really started promoting SMS as a major part of their solution for reasons that we'll talk about. So what is business SMS for UCaaS? Well, sort of like the term SIP trunking, business SMS can mean many things to different people. And if you ask 10 different people, you'll probably get 10 different answers. Business SMS mostly has been used for bulk SMS marketing. So these are text messages we've all received from whomever trying to get us interested in their products. But they're also used more commonly for appointment reminders. Doctors' offices or airlines, for example, will remind you of an appointment or a flight. Delivery notices, I'm sure we all get. I look forward to my Amazon delivery notice when I'm waiting for a package. Alerts, polls, and voting. So the first thing I think of when I think of polls and voting are the voting for your favorite contestant on American Idol. And then another very popular use of SMS in businesses is for two-factor authentication, or 2FA. And that's when you log into a web page and they send you an SMS message with a code that you then have to put in. It's just a way of verifying that the person logging in is actually in control of the phone number that's associated with the account. All of these are very relevant applications and have merit in the business context, but that's not really what I want to focus on for this presentation. For this presentation, I'd like to focus your attention on slightly different SMS use cases, sort of the next frontier of SMS. So in this context, SMS is used as a mode, or I'd like to suggest that SMS is best used by UCaaS providers as a means of enhancing other forms of communication. And really, if you think about all those previous examples, they were one-way conversations. An application or a person is sending messages to one or a group of people, letting them know something. So it's a means of broadcasting information to large groups of people, and it's very effective. But the next generation, the new frontier of SMS messages, is to facilitate two-way conversations. It's about being able to engage your customers in another channel or mode of communication that enhances the existing means of communication. And to do that, you really need to use the business's existing DID or toll-free number, right? So think about it as when you use SMS with your friends and family, it's fairly easy to switch between voice calls and text messages. You might make a phone call and then you remember you forgot to say something, so then you hit the text option on your call history, and you can text them back and go back and forth, and switching between the voice and the SMS context is fairly simple. Well, that's the idea that we want to bring to SMS for business as well, being able to switch those contexts between talking on the phone and communicating via a text message. And some of the reasons for that are, first, if the mobile device user has a business's number in their contacts, in their device contacts, well, the name of that business is going to pop up, and that will be the same for both voice calls and SMS messages. So that helps in easing the transition between the two different types of communications, because you recognize the number right off the bat. As I mentioned, when you're texting with somebody, if you look into text history, you can always choose to call that person. And similarly, if you're looking at the message history, you can always choose to call that person. And because it's the same phone number, that's obviously a lot easier. And then, of course, you want to use the same phone number, because when you receive a text message from a business, if you choose to save that number to your contacts, well, of course, you're going to want that number to be the same number that the business is going to want that number to be the same number that their customer could use to call them. And so the user experience here is really key to making this successful. And I'm just going to spend a couple seconds to highlight that. So this is a screenshot of recent calls on my cell phone from yesterday, actually. And this is an iPhone, and so on iPhone, your recent calls have that little information icon, and if you click that, you get options, the ways to contact this ways to communicate with this contact, and obviously message, call, and video. And typically in a friends and family situation, that the other person is also using a cell phone, because you'll see that that message icon is there. Well, the idea for business SMS is to make the business communication just as easy. When a business calls you, or a business SMS sends you a text message, you want to facilitate that two-way conversation, that two-way interaction. And the way that the messaging and telephone applications are deployed on cell phones today, that's very simple when you have when you have both capabilities associated with your business number. Now, the flip side of this is the old way of doing things. This is a notification I received a few days ago from a business that I sent my glasses to be repaired in. And so they sent me this message telling me that my order was being processed. Now you'll notice that up there at the top, it says that the message is from 4112. Well, that's obviously a short code, and it's meaningless to me. And if I were to click the information button, you can't call that number back, obviously. Right, clicking the call button here would lead me nowhere. One other example, and I use this all the time. So a call comes in. There's that little message icon. If you're busy, if you're in a meeting, or you just can't take the call, you can click that and send a message back to the person. Now, think about, obviously, the situation. If this is a business calling you, and that business number is not SMS enabled, if you're a consumer and you send the text message back, that message will typically go nowhere. Now, big deal, right? Or you may say big deal, but what you're losing here as a business is the opportunity to engage that customer, right? If the customer saw the call and cared enough to at least respond, there's no reason why that response should go into a black hole. That response should be handled as appropriate by whoever was trying to make that call. Ideally, that response would go directly to the person who was calling their customer in the first place. So, and that's these are the types of applications and solutions that we're trying to deploy at SkySwitch, and I think these really highlight the kinds of interactions that UCaaS providers are uniquely situated to address. Simply because, as the UCaaS provider, you control the phone system. You know everything there is to know about how those phone numbers are being used, whether they're being routed to auto attendants or call queues or voicemail boxes, and all of those pieces of information can be used. And when you weave SMS messages into the mix, it really becomes a much more powerful solution. So, what is the opportunity? Right? What is that? What's in it for you as a UCaaS provider to provide SMS services? Well, first, business SMS is a high margin business. Today, if you were to Google business SMS, you would come up with a number of third-party business SMS providers. Probably the most well-known one is a company called ZipWhip, but there's dozens of others. And if you were to get a ZipWhip account, you would end up paying on a retail basis $25 to $35 per DID for that SMS-enabled number. Now, what ZipWhip is doing is they're just porting the SMS portion of a phone number over to their servers, and so even though the voice part of that service continues to flow to your soft switch, when somebody sends an SMS message, because the SMS portion has been ported over, now that message is going to ZipWhip, and now ZipWhip is generating revenue from your customer off a number. And 9 times out of 10, as a UCaaS provider, you won't even know that the SMS part of that service has been ported to another provider, right? In a lot of ways, long codes and SMS messaging is like the Wild West. It's very early days, and because the services and the opportunities to purchase and consume these services at a wholesale level are so new, there's really not a lot of protocol or procedures around how this gets deployed, or even knowing that it's been deployed. But as I mentioned, as a UCaaS provider, you're really in a unique position to introduce SMS messaging, business SMS, to your customer base. Again, knowing how the phone numbers are being used puts you in a much better position relative to companies like ZipWhip, because you know that voicemail boxes get full, right? You know that callers are on hold. You know that there are situations where the voice part of the call could be enhanced or aided by facilitating SMS messages with whoever's on the other side of that line. And then lastly, the opportunity is purely to differentiate your service. And I'll get into this in a little bit more detail, but by virtue of the way that SMS messaging works, it's really very easy to come up with a custom type of scenario where you can make the SMS messaging part of a service act in a very specific way and solve a very unique use case that perhaps nobody else is able to do or nobody else is able to think of. And you can do that because you control the voice component of that service as well. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about what SkySwitch offers, and then we'll get into some use cases. Jason, do you want to walk through this?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Eric, and thank you for all that relevant information. SMS, MMS for virtually any DID or telephone number in North America. Eric mentioned this a little bit earlier in the presentation. So we're able to enable SMS on any number across North America. So, and that can be through our through all our carriers that we have interop through our network. But if you wanted to bring your own carrier, so a lot of our resellers do have BYOT, bring your own telco, and we're able to enable SMS on those particular numbers from those carriers also. So it's very flexible in a sense. SMS keyword responders. Well, SMS autoresponders are just simple text message interactions between you and your clients. You know, people are invited to send a text message with a keyword that you choose to a short code. And then once they text in that keyword, they're able to receive an autoresponder with a welcome message, call to action, or alert about your brand, service, and any communication that you like. So it is a very utilized method of communication today, and that's all applicable, and you can apply that to all our services today. So we are supporting that. SMS to email, but again, we can have an SMS come directly into an email distribution list or a specific email account, and then that person within the business can communicate back to the SMS text message from a prospect, client, or inquiry directly from email. So I don't have to pick up my mobile phone and type it through an app, type it through some kind of a application. I can just do it right through email. SMS to HTTP webhook. So maybe I want to SMS into a webhook and run a call to action into another application. So you can invoke an action into any other software application directly from SMS also. This is also supported by SkySwitch. We API to send and receive. So we have a full API that allows you to integrate your own services, your own technology, and build it right within our UCaaS platform, so you can move SMS messages around via the way you want to in your business. Reach UC. Reach UC is our mobility applications that work seamlessly with our UCaaS and our network and platform. So it is true unified communications. It does voice, video, SMS. It has multiple different options in it, zero touch configuration. It's got real-time presence built into it. All the SMS capability that we're talking about today is going to be available in this, and it seamlessly twins to a PBX extension. So it's an easy to use interface. And again, you can check your voicemail, you can do fax. There's multiple capability that's built within Reach UC. And then SMS to messaging apps. Eric mentioned this a little bit earlier in the presentation. Excuse me, I got somebody calling in right now.
That's okay. I can pick up there.
Okay, thank you.
So these are everything that's on the screen right now are scenarios that we support today, but we're constantly on the lookout for new ways to enhance the platform, and Business SMS presents a lot of possibilities. So SMS to messaging apps, it just refers to integrations that we plan to do. So being able to integrate with messaging apps like Slack or Rocket Chat are coming very soon, and will be available to you as a white label SMS provider. Okay, so how is this deployed? I just want to give you an idea for those of you who are not familiar with the SkySwitch platform of what this looks like in practice. So this is a screenshot of our DID portal. And so our DID portal allows you to go in and purchase and submit port orders for DIDs and to manage the services that are associated with those DIDs. As Jason mentioned a little bit earlier, our DID portal works with DIDs that you purchase through us, as well as DIDs that you bring from other providers. So we call that bring your own telco. It's a seamless part of our service where you can bring your own telephone numbers and use them with our applications. You'll notice that among the icons for this phone number, which happens to be my phone number, is a little SMS icon. And so that's how you configure SMS on any phone number within our platform. And if you were to click that icon in our portal, you would get a screen like this that lets you actually configure the SMS part of the service on this phone number. And you'll notice that you can enable or disable both SMS and MMS. They're both available. Well, I should mention it just became apparent recently that MMS is not available from Rogers in Canada. For some reason, Rogers, the cell phone company in Canada, is not allowing MMS messages to be sent and received from other non-cell phone carriers, which is a little bit of a bummer, because it means that it's not truly available as a service throughout North America. But with that exception, you can enable SMS or MMS on virtually any phone number. And when you do that, you then get the option to choose which application to use with that as SMS service. And you'll notice down there's a drop-down box, and my options are the bot. So one of the ways that we're trying to add value to SMS services in the UCaaS context is by developing bots, smart applications that use artificial intelligence and scripting to help facilitate two-way conversations, as I mentioned earlier. And I have a short video that talks about that in a minute. The other options are email. So as Jason mentioned, we have a SMS to email gateway. So an SMS message that gets sent in can be directed to one or more email destinations. The person who receives that SMS can respond by email. So it's not necessary to use an application, or you can just weave SMS messaging into your daily, into a typical daily workflow. If you're used to responding to emails, well, you can respond to SMS messages by email as well. The next option here is a ReachUC user. As Jason also mentioned, ReachUC is the mobility app that we're integrated with, and so you can choose to direct SMS messages to a ReachUC user. And then lastly is a URL. So these are the webhooks that Jason mentioned, and being able to send a message to services like Zapier or IFTTT means that you can take an inbound message, or an outbound message for that matter, and in essence send a copy of it to some other application. So maybe you want to log all your messages to a Google spreadsheet, or you want to update a customer record in any of the CRM applications that are available through these integration services. That's all possible very easily through this configuration page. This next slide is a screenshot of our bot application, and I'll get into more detail, but this is one particular aspect of it, which is a keyword responder. And so a keyword responder means that when a message arrives at the bot will try to figure out what to do with it. And I'll get into that in more detail, but one of the things the bot can do is to look for keywords that you've configured and respond based on the keyword. So for example, you'll notice up here on the left-hand side where it says keyword, for this number, which is our main phone number, SkySwitch's main phone number, there are three keywords. One is location, one is web, and one is support. And if you were to send any of these keywords to that number, you would get back the replies that are listed here. And these replies can be anything, any kind of text or URL, or even a picture, in which case the system would send an MMS back in response to that. So adding keywords is just a matter of clicking that little add keyword option, and then you type in your keyword there, you type in your reply there. A reply can also, as I mentioned, include a picture, and hitting add. And now you've got a bot that is able to intercept messages and reply. And the key here, and where we're going with this, is that, again, the purpose of this is to facilitate two-way conversations. And I'll touch on this a bit more, but really what we want to do is we want to use the asynchronous nature of SMS messages, of messaging in general, to be able to make typical voice calls, which sometimes don't always end the way, or begin, for that matter, the way that a customer likes, a little better by sending information back to them. Okay, so that leads us into how do you sell SMS to small and medium-sized businesses as a UCaaS provider. So what I like to do is to think of use cases, and these are typically just very narrow definitions of a problem that can be solved with SMS. And really, I think if there's one idea or one message that hopefully you'll take away from this presentation, is that the best use case that I can think of anyway is to promote SMS as an alternative to voicemail. Nobody likes voicemail. I usually hang up when I get somebody's voicemail box. If I know that there's an SMS option available, rather than leave a voicemail message, I'll send an SMS. And I know it's a popular thing because people do that to me. Rather than leave me voicemails, they'll send me SMS messages too. And a lot of times the SMS messages say I just tried to call you. So this is in introducing any type of new service to the market, it's very hard to get over that inertia, if you will, or of people doing things differently. Right? I mean, adding any type of new service is difficult because it changes behavior patterns. Now, of course, we all know that there are customers out there who are always looking for ways to enhance their productivity and want to implement the next new thing. But those customers are the early adopters are definitely the minority. A much easier way to introduce SMS services and all the things they can do is to just promote it as another option to voicemail. So, for example, if you have an SMS enabled number, when you record your voicemail greeting, you could say, leave me a message or send a text message to the same number, right? That's a very easy thing to do. It can be implemented in auto attendance. It can be implemented in call queues, in the call queue messaging. Really, anytime you have an issue where the person who's trying to call into the system is not able to reach the person they're wanting to talk to, and they don't want to wait and they don't want to leave a message, well, here's just another channel, another method of communication that enhances the experience for the user. So I think that this is really a no-brainer, right? Because it doesn't require any kind of change of behavior other than to change a couple of messages, and then of course, working that SMS into the workflow, which could be as easy as just responding to an email. So that's probably the low-hanging fruit, if you were to ask me, is to promote SMS as an alternative to voicemail. But there are other use cases, and what we're working on at SkySwitch is trying to implement these other use cases into applications to make them easy to use. And one of the ways to do that is to initiate calls from the SMS channel. So let's say you have a number that is SMS enabled, and maybe you've left a message on your voicemail greeting to say that says leave a message or send an SMS. Well, now let's say that SMS conversation starts. Well, you want to be able to switch back to phone calls very easily. And so being able to intercept keywords in the SMS message and turn that message into a phone call is another area of use cases, and one that I'll talk about in a little more detail. And then, of course, as as Jason mentioned earlier, and I demonstrated, keyword autoresponders are another way to do that. Once you have somebody communicating with you through SMS, you can ease the process, help the process along by introducing keyword responders. So that information that is fairly easy to provide gets provided right away. Driving directions, hours of operations, holiday hours, anything that you might get a lot of calls about, you can direct those people to send a text message and then send them back an auto response based on a keyword that they sent. And then, of course, the final part of that is encouraging customers to update their marketing materials. Getting them to make it known to their customer base that their customers can send SMS messages as well as calling. So here's an example. A restaurant menu could say, for daily specials, call or text the phone number, right? And so typically when somebody calls a restaurant during busy hours, they get a busy signal or they get sent a voicemail. If you're looking for order information, maybe it's very easily served by a text message, right? So you can just send a text message right back. Okay, so along those lines, I'd like to talk now about Sally, which is one of the applications we've developed, and it's a directory bot. And again, what we're trying to do, or what we've tried to do with Sally, is to enhance the communication experience by taking information that's today in the PBX, it's in the UCAS system, and being able to share it in the SMS channel. So this is a short video. It will run for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and play it.
People are relying on text messaging more than ever. In fact, 8 out of 10 millennials prefers to send a text message rather than talk on the phone.
Can you turn that up a little bit, Eric?
That it's become an integral part of smartphones. This presents a challenge for business owners because most business phone lines cannot receive SMS messages. And even if they could, when a text message is sent to a business's main number, it's impossible to know if the message gets to the right person. SkySwitch solves this problem with Sally, the SMS directory bot. Sally is a smart agent that brings the power of AI to SkySwitch-hosted PBX users. With Sally on the job, businesses can connect with customers that send SMS messages in an efficient and conversational way. Sally engages with customers who send SMS messages by intelligently responding with relevant information from the company directory and taking the appropriate actions based upon the responses she receives. Sally can make calls and automatically connect a customer to the right resource in the company by cross-referencing call logs and the company directory. So if Debbie tries to call Steve and Steve replies with an SMS message, Sally will know about Debbie's call and will offer to connect Steve to Debbie. Or if Steve replies that he needs to talk to someone in customer service, then Sally can find the right call queue for customer service and connect Steve to it automatically. Sally is also teachable. Sally can learn about almost anything, like hours of operation, driving directions, or special events, just to name a few of the many possibilities. Now you can put the power of AI and smart agents to work for your customers with SkySwitch.
Okay, so that hopefully that was a lot of information in a very short 2 minutes, but hopefully it gives you a flavor for the types of applications that we're building and we think can really add value in the UCAS context. So we're running short on time, and I wanted to make sure that there was enough time for questions at the end. I'll just spend a few brief seconds talking about ReachUC. The SMS messaging can be used without a mobility app, but a mobility app is one way that that you can use and leverage SMS and MMS messages. And so ReachUC is the one that we've integrated with. It's available to all SkySwitch resellers, and obviously it's a way that you can send SMS and MMS messages to customers and employees at the business that are using the app can interact with this as one of the channels of communication. Let's see, we're at 46 minutes after the hour. I think we should just open it up to questions, Jason.
Okay, sounds good. All right, Eric, thank you so much for all the information there. I know there was a lot of information, but again, it's just totally relevant to what's going on in the industry today, and actually, where SkySwitch we see the industry moving at a fast pace. So let's start with the first question here. Can you speak to how SkySwitch stacks up against competitors like RingCentral, Vonage, and business SMS with their business SMS offerings?
Well, again, when you say I'm not an expert on RingCentral or Vonage, and maybe you can help me out, Jason, if I miss anything. But my understanding is that Vonage bought a company called Nexmo, which is very similar. It was a communications platform as a service company, similar to Twilio, and they're making the capabilities of the Nexmo messaging infrastructure available to Vonage customers in several different ways. And so they've rolled out applications like appointment reminders and bulk SMS messaging applications to their customers. And these are great and relevant applications. And we at SkySwitch intend to get there eventually. But really, our focus right now is on enhancing that and aiding in that two-way conversation as opposed to sending bulk email messages. RingCentral, on the other hand, they have a mobility app that is similar to ReachUC. ReachUC, I believe, has a few features they don't have, but I think that their focus is more on the UCaaS environment and just adding SMS into typical conversations that businesses have with their customers, and not so much on things like bulk marketing and appointment reminders and those types of applications.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question from Florida. Regarding the SMS portion of a number, who are you not able to port away from? So what carriers are we not able to port away from? And we fully understand that you can port a number and then SMS enable it, but for the SMS portion only, who does SkySwitch not work with today?
So for the most part, I'll break this down into two categories. If you purchase the phone number from SkySwitch, we can port from pretty much anybody. There's no number in North America or Canada that we can't port the SMS part away from, at least not that I'm aware of. And again, I mentioned this is very early days, and even our providers don't know the answers to these questions sometimes until we put it to them and they do some investigation. But I have yet come across a number that we could not port away. Now, sometimes it takes a while, just like any kind of porting. Sometimes there's hoops to jump through, but we can usually get it done. With BYOT numbers, where you're bringing your own carrier relationship in, we have trouble. Well, it's not trouble. Bandwidth does not allow the SMS portion of their numbers to be ported away, unless you get an LOA from them, which is not easy to do. So those are really the two different categories. And so if you bring really the only numbers that we've come across that we can't port are the bandwidth numbers in a BYOT situation.
So no problem with mobile carriers and bringing mobile carrier numbers over. If you want to port away from a mobile carrier and then SMS.
Well, I should have said that. No, you can't port a mobile number away. This applies to all numbers except for mobile numbers. A mobile carrier will not allow you to port away the SMS portion of their service.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question here. Looks like we got that coming from Dallas, Texas. You show the customer mobile number, but how does it look from the business and seeing and responding to customer text?
Well, so that really depends on which application you're using to interact with the text message. So if you're using the ReachUC application, for example, you'll see the customer's cell phone number that they sent a text message from, and actually that number gets fed through to all the applications. So if you're forwarding the SMS message to an email, the subject of the email message that you receive will say SMS from, and it will have the number as well as the DID that the person sent the SMS message to as part of the email message, so you know the context in which you're receiving it. If you're using the keyword responder, there's a history tab there that shows you all of the messages, and part of that history table is the sender's phone number as well as the DID that they sent the number to.
Okay. Next message is coming from Irvine, California. Chris wants to know if SkySwitch supports MMS.
Yes, we do. It's actually it's available right now in beta. You know, if you ask, we're planning to roll it out across the board very soon in a matter of days. If it's something that you need today, we can enable it for your account. And that's in terms of just receiving and receiving MMS messages. Now, sending MMS messages is going to be available in ReachUC with the next version of ReachUC, which we anticipate will be out. I want to say 3 weeks, but you know, it's subject to a little more development.
Super. The next message is coming from New York. John had a question that he has a client that uses Zendesk and wanted to know if we could integrate the SMS portion with their dashboard.
Okay, so probably the easiest way to do that would be with a Zap and a webhook. So you can route that SMS message to a service like Zapier. It doesn't have to be Zapier, but that's the one I'm most familiar with. And then create a Zap, as they're called, in the Zapier service that will take that message and update a customer record in Zendesk or any other CRM that Zapier is integrated with, and they're integrated with hundreds.
Super. Next question comes from.
Let me add. So we're working on examples of all these things. You know, so this is a new service to us, and we're a little bit behind in terms of communicating all of the features and documents. But we will have videos out in the next few weeks showing how to do this with various services like Zapier.
Let me ask you a question too. If we have a customer, if we have a reseller application that they want to try to do some type of integration, would SkySwitch be willing to assist in getting some of that API development done for an application like SMS integration to Zendesk?
Well, we're always willing if the business case supports it, right?
Okay.
I know that.
Okay, thank you. How do end users administer or administrate auto response to keywords?
Okay, so there is a new web interface, a new UI for the SMS keyword responder, and so one of the things that's going to happen after this presentation is if you're a SkySwitch customer, you'll see an announcement go out either today or tomorrow showing you how you can get access to that user interface. And that user interface has two components. One component is for you, the reseller, which will be available through the dashboard. The other one is for your end users. So those end users can go to a branded web page, a lot like the way we brand the meeting manager landing pages. They'll be able to log in with their PBX username and password, and then if they're a domain manager, they'll be able to see all the DID numbers that have been SMS enabled for their domain, and then can choose a number and create the keywords. If they're an end user that's not a domain manager, they'll be able to see any DID numbers that are routed to their particular PBX extension, and they'll be able to administer just those numbers or that number the same way.
Okay, very good, very good. Next question is, can SkySwitch resellers get that video branded the Sally video?
Yes, most definitely. We actually have 3 new videos that are available for branding, and that you'll be seeing an announcement about that very soon also.
Okay. Next question is coming from Dallas, Texas again. Best way for multiple people to monitor and respond to shared DID SMSs. SMS to email. So you got one business number, could be the primary, billing telephone number, and you got multiple people connected to it. What are best practices for multiple people responding to a single number and single SMSs?
Yeah, so you can in the DID portal, when you configure the route for an SMS message, the way it's set up is you have to have one primary user as the assigned user of that number, and but then you can copy that messages to any number of other users as well. Now because SMS messages are tied to particular users, and we have caps on messages. So part of our pricing says that you get 500 outbound messages. We have to be able to count who those messages are coming from. So even though inbound messages can be copied to multiple users, only the assigned user can reply. Now, one way around that is if you were to have an email address that were a group email address, like sales@skyswitch.com, you could send the SMS to the email gateway. Everybody who gets a copy of sales@skyswitch.com would receive that message. And as long as they're replying, and they're replying from sales@skyswitch.com, any of those recipients could then reply to that message.
Okay. All right. We've got just about 15 more questions here. Will you be providing any real use examples for us? I'm not sure how our manufacturing, legal, medical, etc. clients would have a use for this. Retail makes sense, but not sure where it fits in anywhere else. So it's the business applications. They just want more, I guess, information of use cases in that scenario.
Well, like I said, I think that the best and easiest use case is as an alternative to voicemail, right? Anytime anytime you have somebody waiting on the line, giving them the opportunity to send a text message instead of being shunted to voicemail or to continue holding, I think is very valid to any kind of business. It only makes sense. That said, I mean, are there specific situations where that might not be one? Sure, I can think of those, but I think generally speaking, it's a great option to leaving a voicemail message, simply because it solves a lot of problems that people try to solve with voicemail. How do you get that voicemail message to all the recipients that need to hear it? Well, it's a lot easier to route using email, for example, than to try and get that voicemail heard. It's also a lot easier to respond, and you can have other types of intelligence that are, a voicemail message, you actually have to listen to it to hear what it says. With a text message, you can have applications or other platforms that can parse it and figure out, what the words are and send messages back, like the autoresponder, for example.
Right. That's where the AI comes in. We have a question here from Randy out of Indianapolis, Indiana. What is available through SkySwitch University and SkySwitch support to help us get started with implementing SMS for customers?
All right. Well, that's, like I said, this webinar got out a little bit ahead of our marketing department in terms of getting the documentation out there, but it's all coming. We're working hard to get those examples and the user guides available. So please, appreciate your patience, and please stay tuned.
Yes, absolutely. Here's an interesting question from Rich. Can you SMS to a main number and individual DIDs if no hosted seats exist? So this would be applicable to a SIP trunk to an IP PBX.
Yes, that's one of the nice things about the SMS implementation. You don't need a SIP device. You just need a user on the PBX.
Great. Okay, next question real quick. Out of Florida, out of Tampa, Florida. Could SkySwitch develop a delay in fire or a scheduling interface for sending timed SMS messages?
Well, of course we could. Like I said in the beginning, I'm hoping that this is the start of a conversation that we all have about the best way to use SMS to enhance UCaaS. And so we're committed to pursuing applications that will help you close more business. That's our mission, right? And so yes, absolutely. That said, we're also in talks with other third-party applications that will tie in to our messaging infrastructure. So it's very possible that we can get that kind of capability from a third-party system as well.
All right, fantastic. This next question is coming out of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, from Mark. Is there a way to route or forward cell phone text messages to the SkySwitch service?
So there are apps that you can install on your smartphone that will forward a message. I've used one in the past, and so they're out there. I won't claim to be an expert or to know very much about them, other than that they exist.
Okay. Next question is coming from Danette out of Pennsylvania, and her question is: if a customer is using ZipWhip currently on their DID and they want to switch to SkySwitch SMS, will it work since ZipWhip has ported the SMS part? So can we get the SMS ported back over to SkySwitch?
Absolutely. It's just like any other. It's just like, well, it's actually easier. You don't need the same type of documentation that you would to port a number away, to port the voice part of a number away. But yeah, the answer is yes. If you were to enable the SMS messaging in the DID portal, it would effectively port the SMS part of that number back to SkySwitch.
Perfect. Next question is coming from Michael. With a bot, could I reach multiple SMS clients?
I'm going to need more information on that. I mean, so a bot is just an application that in our case, a bot just replies to messages. So typically, it's taking an inbound SMS and sending a response back that hopefully has some meaning to the sender. The sending multiple outbound messages is certainly possible, and as a matter of fact, in the keyword responder user interface, you can put in multiple recipients and send multiple messages out that way. I'm having trouble though thinking of a situation where a bot which is responding to messages would send out multiple messages. But please share more ideas, and we're happy to look into them. Speaking of bots, and I meant to mention this earlier, but one of the applications we're working on is a missed call bot. So if somebody calls into a business and hangs up, a bot can detect that and can determine if it's a cell phone caller, and if it is, send them a text message that says, "It looks like you were trying to reach us. Is there anything we can do?" Right, and then to try and pick up the conversation through a text message that way.
Okay, I'm getting to some of these questions. What end-user SMS interfaces are there? ReachUC, browser, and phone app? I think he's talking about what options do we have from SkySwitch today?
Yeah, so from today, it's ReachUC, which runs in a browser or with the desktop apps or on a mobile app. There's email, of course, which is it can be sent to anybody's email client. There's also the web responder user interface when end user can log into the web responder app and can send and see inbound messages. Of course, the purpose there is to create the keywords that will be sent as auto responses. And then coming very soon, we'll have the integrations with messaging apps like Rocket Chat and Slack.
Okay. Okay. I've got another question here. I think it's a good question from Henderson, Nevada, from Rich. Most of our clients will be porting from Cordow that are bandwidth.com numbers as we bring them to the SS platform or to the SkySwitch platform. Are you saying they will be difficult to port the SMS portion of that number?
If you port the phone number to SkySwitch, then no. We have an LOA from Bandwidth, and so we can, once that number is ported to SkySwitch, we may not use Bandwidth as the underlying provider once it's ported to us, but we will be able to get the SMS portion over to us. If that number is a BYOT number and it's with Bandwidth as the underlying carrier, then you most likely will not be able to port the SMS portion.
Okay. Next question comes from Florida. And a SkySwitch reseller. I don't see the keyword responder in the portal. Am I missing it? I see other options like directory, email, and URL. I think you spoke to that earlier.
Yeah, it's not there yet. It will be there very soon, today or tomorrow. You'll see an announcement going out about that. And just, so what we're going to do is we're going to make it available by request first. We're not going to roll it out to everybody. So if you get your request into support, we'll be handling them on a first come, first serve basis. Okay.
So we see a couple of multiple questions that are in here too. So if you feel your question to get it answered, I'm going through these and I'm vetting these a little bit because they have been answered in previous questions. Can we get more details after the webinar? Of course, we're going to send a recording out of this webinar, so you'll have access to all these questions and so forth, and be able to go through the webinar and review it and learn more about it. And this is all a learning process too, and it's all about education. So the more you know, obviously, the more effective you can be out there in the marketplace. But as again, this is new technology that we're launching. We want to try to stay ahead of the curve as much as possible, and we will backfill as much information and support documentation for all our resellers and for the industry as much as we can. I am in India and would like to reconnect soon. Fantastic. We got people calling in from all over the world. And yes, I remember you. So yes, feel free to reach out, and we're here to help you in any capacity. Okay, the next one here. How many keyword responders can Sally handle? Is there a limit? This is for Mark.
So we believe the way to go to market with this is by the number of keywords, and so the way we'll be charging for it, and the way we will suggest you charge your customers as well, is by the number of keywords. So technically, from a technical perspective, there is no limit. We're thinking, and this is subject to revision because again, this is very early. We're thinking that there will be tiers: 10 keywords, 50 keywords, and unlimited keywords.
All right, thank you very much. The next question is a very good question, again, out of Florida, about pricing and the pricing for SMS. If you're a SkySwitch reseller, you've recently had notification that if SMS was not included in your current MSA, to request an update to the MSA and get that rider, and we have that pricing all developed for you. For non-SkySwitch resellers out there that wish to implement the SMS, the business SMS portion of our platform, it is available to you. If you have information or you want more pricing information about that, feel free to reach me, Jason Jones, at 858-605-0313, or Jason Jones, JAYSON.Jones at skyswitch.com. Be happy to get that information, that pricing out to you, and our MSA. Thank you very much. When will SkySwitch be able to initiate SMS from email? I think it's ready today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is ready today. But it's for replies only. So we're not envisioning that you're going to be able to send outbound SMS messages from email. Although
Just
we're
respond.
willing
Just
to talk
respond
about
to
it.
those messages, right?
Just responding, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And part just let me add, part of the reason for that is the carriers are very, very wary about spamming, right? And so if you get dinged for spamming, it's very hard to they're much stricter than email providers. So we want to reduce the opportunity for spam, and obviously by allowing users to send email messages outbound, it increases the opportunity for spamming.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. We have just a couple more questions. All right. So, and they keep popping in, and we're going to have to cut this off pretty soon. And amazingly, that we've had better than 80% attendance rate. We've had a few people drop off, but 80% of the attendees are still here in the webinar. So it's relevant information. So we can create a sales user inside a domain and route the SMS to that user, then have multiple people log into ReachUC to monitor that SMS feed. Is that capable?
Well, no, no. Well, you can. There's a few different answers to that question. I think if that was in response to my example earlier, what I was suggesting earlier was you doing email, SMS to email rather, and if you create a sales, just for our example, sales@skyswitch.com is an email address that gets distributed to a number of people, right? So that SMS message would come in. It's routed to a user or it's routed to an email rather, and the email is sales@skyswitch.com. Now, anybody who receives that message can reply, and as long as they're from email addresses sales@skyswitch.com, anybody who receives it will be able to reply to it. If you're using ReachUC, then you can create a user, and that user can receive it, and you can send copies of that email to other users, a user other than the sales user you were referring to.
Okay, makes total sense. Next question here is coming from Bill. How can we initiate SMS from a Windows or Mac desktop? I'll take that question real quick. That is done through the ReachUC mobility applications. We have the desktop applications for Windows, the WebRTC pop-out for Windows and for the Mac. So SMS, MMS will be supported through those. And you can go out to www.reachuc.com to read up on more information about all those applications and capability. Last question is, can you set up auto reply messages based on time of day?
The answer to that is no today, but this came up recently, and then it seems like a relevant feature. So our plan is to tie those messages into the timeframes in the PBX, so that you'll be able to route and reply based on the same timeframes that the PBX user is using.
Great, and that question was from Bob in Charleston, South Carolina. That is going to be all the questions that we can take today. I want to thank Eric for his time and the information, and really bringing us up to speed.
Before we end this, I'm going to ask for 2 more minutes. I skipped this originally, just because I wanted to get to the questions, but I wanted to show this. The question about the branded videos came up earlier.
Okay.
So this is one of the new videos. This is the ReachUC explainer video. This has been branded for a reseller, CFA Voice, but it's available. It will be available to everyone. So let me just take 2 minutes and play this, and then we can close it out after that. Okay, Jason?
Sounds good. Make sure you turn your volume up.
Hi, my name is Wendy, and I'm a product advisor with CFA Voice. In this video, I'm going to show you how ReachUC Plus, the mobility solution from CFA Voice, can make you more productive. ReachUC is an application that will run on any device. It lets you take all of the best features of your cloud PBX desk phone with you wherever you go. Here's how it works. When someone calls your desk phone, the call also rings the Reach UC app on your smartphone, so you can answer it anywhere. You can also make calls as a VoIP call over the internet or by having the system call you back on your cell phone line. Either way, the called party sees your business line as a caller ID, so you don't have to give people your personal cell phone number. Reach UC works great even when the signal strength is less than perfect, and you can choose to use either your cellular data signal or Wi-Fi. But that's not all. Reach UC has plenty of other features to let you work better. There's no complicated setup. Just log in with your cloud PBX credentials. Move a call from your desk phone to your smartphone with one click. See a searchable directory of all your contacts, along with their presence status so that you always know when they're available. Change your call handling rules to activate call screening or forward calls. Record calls and save the file right onto your smartphone. Make conference calls. Access your cloud PBX voicemail. Make video calls. Send faxes. Chat with coworkers. And send and receive text messages and pictures using your business line with Business SMS. Reach UC is also integrated with your other productivity apps. You can click and call from any web page or schedule web conferences from Google Calendar or Microsoft Outlook. Using Reach UC from CFA Voice is easy. To get started, just go to www.reachuc.com to download the app today.
Okay, thank you everyone for sticking around for that. I think that's all we have. Appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you everyone, and stay tuned for more SkySwitch University webinars. Have a great day. Bye-bye.